Vision FM, and I know I don't let you guys know ahead of time when I'm going to be on, but I hope that even though I don't, you will still, if you're watching this on YouTube, you will watch it on YouTube and subscribe, and you will share the page and so forth. All right. Today's topic is I'm going to talk about my thoughts about Little Richard. After reading like a few things about him, it was just interesting, the things that he had to go through. Of course, Richard Penniman was born in like a small town, and I was gonna look at this up before, but I can imagine, and you can Google this if you want. It seemed like a lot of these towns in the South, and let me also put this in there. If you weren't around back then, or even if you're now like, let's say 88 years old, or you're 85 years old, or you're 80 years old, and you weren't a part of what was happening. If I say things about the people in that time, don't wear it. If I say stuff about the Democrats that were running the show, putting up the Jim Crow laws at the time, and then later on, they blamed the Republicans, don't wear it. This is a different time. And of course, this show is for entertainment reasons only. And the views of this producer, because I'm the only blind TV producer in Colorado, are my views and my views only. All right, it's not to be associated with this channel that you're watching on Denver Open Media, Channel 56, or hearing it on my radio show. Well, if it's on my radio station, it is the views of the management and so forth, because I'm the management, and that's Intervision FM. Okay, so do subscribe, hit that button so you can be notified if you're watching this on YouTube, and share this as well. Okay, so Little Richard, and I was watching like just intently like a lot of interviews that, back in the day, I didn't have time to keep up with Little Richard. I was interested in him because he was a flamboyant, kind of interesting guy to listen to, and some points he was funny, and then some points he was very serious. So growing up in a small town, he I guess out of 12 kids, his parents, and especially his father, wanted the kids to have a profession. He wanted them to and I get it. Back in those days, a lot of the parents didn't have some of them, not all of them, didn't have a good way of communicating, because maybe their parents, or parents before that, or their grandparents had came out of slavery, and in slavery, you beat the person into submission. You beat the person. You don't. If you say something and the person doesn't understand it, you hit the person. And so you come out of this abuse of slavery, and then you pass those traits down from generation to generation, where you think that you have to hit children to get them to obey, or you have to hit children, and you don't take the time to explain to them what's going on. So I guess it was effeminate, and his father didn't like this fact, and physically took it out on Little Richard. which in a Donny Osmond and Maria and Donny Osmond show, he was 68 at this time. He broke down and cried about thinking about how his dad would tie him to the bedpost and, whip him. And man, it's just kind of, I guess, whip the gayness out of him, which we know that you pretty much you cannot do, and so his brothers and sisters were towing the line, and they were, wanting to go to school and educate themselves to be, professionals. But Little Richard wanted to be a star, a performer, and that was his dream. But his father said, how are you going to make it? There's no stars where we are. How are you going to make it out of this town to become a star? And as he realized that a lot of famous people, rock and roller singers, came out of that area. And you can Google all this stuff. I'm just giving you the overlay. And since Intervision is about the business of music, we teach the business of music. I guess you guys are wondering, like, when are you going to get back to music and not so much politics? But there's going to be a little politics twinkle in this, but because that's kind of interesting to me. But sometimes I get bored with it because it seems like nothing ever changes. It's just corruption. But anyway, so and it was one thing that he said, Little Richard said, well, you heard about the black and white water fountains, and you might have heard of the saying, separate but equal. Now, separate meant what it meant, but equal never meant what it meant. It means that if you went to you saw two water fountains, and one said white and one said colored, the one that was colored had flies in it and snot, or it was just terrible. And then if you went into the bathroom, the plumbing wasn't working, it smelled, it was very unkept. So that they kept up the bathrooms that said white, but they didn't keep up the bathrooms that said colored. Also, the schools, they would get the hand-me-down books, the books that were half torn, and people, the white students had written all over, and so they would get those books, and then they would give it to the black schools, the colored schools back in those days. So this was what he grew up in, and then he just started, I guess, singing, and it started, because he heard about these blues, because his parents took him to church, and he started hearing these gospel singers, and then he started hearing these blues singers, and that's what he wanted to do. Well, I guess at some point, when he was either 15 or so, he said his best friend, which sometimes I hear this stuff, my best friend, I killed my best friend. I got two best friends. I never once thought about killing my best friends. And I would even call them my best friends if I got so angry that I couldn't tell that this was my best friend. So I'm not sure. I've heard that a lot amongst mostly like black young people. It might happen in the white community as well, but I just can't wrap my head around killing my best friend or my best friend killed my dad. But his best friend killed his dad. His dad caught him, stealing out of the penny machine. Now it used to be like we have those a nickel. It's now quarters and 50-cent machines now. But it used to be like a penny machine where you put a penny in there and you would get like peanuts, or you get like candy or whatever. So this kid was stealing out of it, and the father saw him. So instead of saying, hey, please don't tell me, whatever, he had a gun, so he shot and killed him, right? And I'm thinking, like, okay, over some pennies. I mean, maybe, okay, you're hungry. Maybe he could understand. Maybe he could, it was a moment that he could teach you. And I think he only spent, I don't know if it was a year or maybe 7 years or less in jail, and then they just let him go. I don't think it was even a year that he spent in jail for murdering another person. All right, and that's just the way it was in the South. If you kill a black person, you could pretty much get away with it. Just like if you were white and you lynched a black person, you never got tried for that. And if they did take you to court, they would do it in front of an all-white jury, and they would just find you not guilty, and that's that. So it was never any justice for many of the colored people back then. So Little Richard, I'm gonna move ahead a little bit more. So Little Richard, and if you're just catching us, this is Innovision FM. My name is Johnny J. I'm the only blind TV producer with a radio TV show on Channel 56, Denver Comcast 56, and on KUVO 92.9 on the FM dial every Friday 6 p.m. And on Sundays at 9 a.m. and then on KUHS Denver as well. And let's see who's in the house, as I'm just telling how I see things. Let's see. I'm gonna see who's in the building. Okay. And like I said, when you come to watch this later on, you can have your comments and so forth. Okay. So Little Richard said, okay, he really was under pressure because he says he wanted to really help his family, and so he wanted to become a star, and he became a dishwasher, and I guess he was pretty good, because I think he said he got up to $15 an hour, which was very good. I don't know if it was $15 a week. Could have been just $15 a week, but anyway, I don't know if it was $15 an hour. So he got into dishwashing, and he kept singing these songs, and then he got a chance to go into a recording studio. Well, this recording studio, on one side, Elvis was on one side, the white side of the record label, and then on the race music side of the record label, there was Little Richard and others like him, and so they were recording some songs, and then I guess they took a break, and he started doing this song, Tutti Frutti, oh Rudy, Tutti Frutti, and because he used to say that he's like when he was picking up the things of washing, people said, if you didn't wash the dish, instead of him cussing at the person, he said, wap papa doo rap rap pap, so they wouldn't get in trouble for saying that the buyer was wrong. So okay, so he started doing this, and they started playing the piano, and they said, well, you got something there, that nobody else is doing that. So they recorded that, and I think in 1955, and because he put out a lot of recordings, and you can hear some of them. I mean, right now I got the Little Richard's all-time greatest hits. Yeah, re-recorded. That means that if you want to get your royalties, and Prince had to do the same thing. If you wanted to get your royalties, you have to sometimes re-record something and change the name slightly a little bit, so you could start getting the royalties. All right, and so Little Richard started, later on in life, he started recording songs when he found out that they weren't paying him the royalties. But anyway, so and then of course you know that the songs were redone by Pat Boone. Elvis Presley did the song, and they would have hits with his songs. And so he said, wait, hey, what's up with this? Here I wrote the song, and these guys are getting hits because they're crossover. Well, of course, what saved Little Richard was his being effeminate. And what he started doing was started to put the hair and the eyelashes in, the lipstick and rouge, and wearing his hair like that. And so he wouldn't be a threat to the white guys and possibly lynched for being a pretty black guy that white women screamed over, and guys, white guys admired, white guys admired the music. So he said, people would buy the Pat Boone album, they would have it on the top of the shelf, but have his music underneath the shelf because, they weren't supposed to like race music at the time. And this next part I'm going to tell you about. So he was doing music, and then he said he went from making $15 an hour to making $10,000 an hour. And he said, I think it was in either Australia, but he was in Europe. And he said it was 1957, he stopped doing music to go back to school to learn how to read and write so he can count his money and understand some of the paperwork. So he said he just stopped, he said I needed to know how to count my money because he sort of felt like he was getting ripped off. And my mother always said, like, Johnny, learn how to read and count your money. And even in the movie about Ray Charles, how they were duking him over the little pay that he was generating, but he was generating pay, and they were duking him over the money. So if they find out they can get over on you, people will certainly try to get over on you, and that's what we teach with Innovision's part. We teach you how to, if you're a musician, we teach you the business part. We find out a lot of musicians, they just want to play the music, but why not know the business part of the music business? Why not know how to negotiate what you get paid in the music business, right? If that's going to be your vocation, know how to read a contract, know how to find a template for a contract and put that contract out, have it with you when you go and say, oh, you want to hire us? If you're charging, $5 at the door, if you're charging $10 at the door, we want to get paid. And hey, why not? Why not? So, and it was so funny how people rewrite the history. As you know, in the South with all the Jim Crow laws and all that kind of stuff, that was started by the Democrats. And it's so funny that now today the Democrats are saying, Republicans are the racists. But you have to think about this. Abraham Lincoln is gonna free the slaves, then he's gonna restrict gun ownership by black people, then put on a white ghost-like outfit, terrorize black people after freeing them from slavery. No. It doesn't make sense if you think about it. It would, and like I said, if you are white and you're born today, don't wear it. I'm talking about the past. A lot of those people are dead and gone, and if they're still alive and still hating people, well, the reaper is going to come for them soon anyway. So take what I'm saying as just a discussion about the past history. And if you don't fit into that shoe, if you're a Democrat and you've never wanted to lynch a black person, but you wanted to see them abort their children, well, you might be a part of that crew. But anyway, that's a horse of another color. So it was just crazy that they would nowadays they will put that on the Republicans when it was the Democrats that started the Ku Klux Klan, started the Jim Crow laws, and started up the white drinking fountains and the black drinking fountains, and even Jack Johnson, a black boxer back then, he was arrested for taking his wife across state lines, which that was against the law in I think Woodrow Wilson in 1914 put across that law, and it didn't get reversed until way later on, like I think just a few years ago. President Donald Trump, you know, wiped his record clear and said, hey, he shouldn't have been arrested for taking his white wife across state lines. And I'm surprised that our first black president, Bill Clinton, didn't do that. I'm surprised that our second pseudo-black president, Obama, didn't do that. It had to take President Donald Trump to do that, and to change some of the crime laws that weren't acting favorably toward minorities and black people and so forth. But anyway, so he took out time to learn the business of music, and so he came back, and I would see these videos, and he's 52 years old, Tom Snyder, and he's 52 years old, and he's saying, "Give me back my royalties. Give me my royalties. I did the work for them. I should get my royalties." And I guess a lot of artists, Chuck Berry and all, they had to fight to get the royalties from these record companies out there making money, and you hear them on the radio, and somebody's getting royalties, but it's most likely the company. And then Michael Jackson, which I'm so happy he did this, when he bought the Beatles catalog, he also bought the catalog of Little Richard and gave Little Richard his catalog. Now I don't know what year he did that. It probably had to be like in the 90s, somewhere in the 90s, because I think that's when he started. I think that was when he bought the rights to the catalog to the Beatles, and John Lennon, not John Lennon, but Paul McCartney was mad. He says, "What are you doing?" I was bidding on that, and he says, and Michael just said it was just business, just business. And even when Prince, he wanted to get the rights back to his masters and so forth, and it just took a long time to get that back. And then I guess when he finally got it back, he ended up overdosing on that pain medicine. So, but at least Little Richard had some time. But I mean, could you imagine somebody owes you, you're working a job? Now he did get paid doing his stage productions, but just imagine you're leaving money on the table. You're leaving money on the table, and the record company won't even say, "Well, let's make a split," like 20-80. You get 80, we get 20. Wouldn't even make a split like that, a reasonable split. So really, you got to really learn how to read contracts. And I know, like the Democrat school-led system, which doesn't want black kids to have vouchers because they don't want the money following the kids, where they will, go and to a school that will teach them rather than just house them, and then end up 75% of black students and brown students, I would guess as well, leave high school and not capable of reading, writing, and doing math, or doing it at a second grade or a third grade level. And I know it has a lot to do with the parents, because the parents really have to get on the kids, but it also has to do with the school system and the way they're set up as well. But anyway, I'm going to let you go, you guys. Thank you for watching Intervision FM. Oh, with Johnny J. Let me get down to this part. And we'll see you next time on Intervision FM. Don't forget to watch us on, or listen to us on KUPO 92.9 on the FM dial. Listen to our show on Sundays from 1 to 3 on KUHS Denver. And also listen to our 24/7, 7 days a week Christian Contemporary station. If you have any requests, if you want to see a format change, talk to me. We'll talk about it. Innovision FM with Johnny J. And oh, Renee Ekron Green, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching, Jeremiah Stanfield. And for everybody else who's going to be watching, leave your remarks there about Little Richard. All right? God bless.